Paths to Power is the first DLC for Sins of a Solar Empire 2, and it's also the most significant update that the game has seen, challenging you, not just against quite a difficult AI, but also against a variety of new victory conditions. Join me as we take a look at the 10 new scenario missions across the DLC, with my thanks to Stardock Entertainment for sponsoring this video. If you'd like to check out the game, you can do so using my link down below. Let's get on with the show. Welcome then to Paths of Power. Let's dive straight into it, as this is a completely scenario-based DLC, 10 new scenarios, sort of mission maps to play through. Let's take a look at each one, as well as dive into what makes them tick. I'm not usually a scenarios guy. I don't tend to like to sort of hold my hand through the lore. However, in this case, the lore, just the right amount of it, really supports what are much more fundamental changes to how you're probably going to play the game. The first scenario, for example, just one player, it's just you, and the objective is just to survive. That's it. Thrown into the deep end in a pre-existing world. And we'll return to this one a little bit later in the video, but first let's get a feel for just what a couple of others might look like. There's a sort of twin pairing in the scenarios where two players are the feature and the focus. Your objective, eliminate your rival. Here you'll start with a little bit of firepower as well. This is not a scenario where you're starting from a blank canvas like some of the ones that we'll talk about later in the video. Here, if you want to try out a really powerful fleet, you can do just that. This is a Titanic sort of scenario, and you can effectively choose to play it from either side. Whatever one you, of course, deem to be good versus evil. The objective remains broadly the same. Remove the stain from the galaxy, in this case, in a 1v1 situation. Speaking of one though, let's return briefly to this. Defend the Homeworld, the very first scenario. It's effectively a kind of King of the Hill scenario, where you will fight off waves of enemies as they assault this, your homeworld. You already have many research options, both civilian and military, unlocked as you're progressing through to the third tier in both of them right from the start. And you'll get to play around a little bit with some more advanced firepower, this time not Titan scale, but starting with some capital ships and everything below them, as well as some reasonably well-developed planets. Don't get me wrong, there's still plenty of room to expand, but the focus here, again, is just to survive. With this really handy objective thing down in the bottom left-hand corner of the screen, you can monitor when the next wave is coming in, the number of waves that you have fought off. This truly is a King of the Hill style scenario. As I was playing through it, initially I thought, okay, this won't be that bad. What's a hard AI? What's an impossible AI in this game really like? And initially, when the attacks are just coming from one direction, as you can see here, you can tend to sort of muster the troops and actually quite successfully defend yourself for a little while. But don't get too far ahead of yourself, for the challenge quickly ramps up, and that difficulty curve that's not just introduced by the perhaps more advanced AI than you're used to playing against, if you're anything like me, but also the scale of the challenge. You may be the only single player, however there are multiple enemies, and without giving too many spoilers away for each scenario, but as we dive into this one specifically, that's really where the extra layer of challenge comes in here in the Defend the Homeworld scenario. It's important as well, I think, to acknowledge that really in a lot of ways this is kind of like a time challenge, right? Of course you can speed up the game, pause at any time to quickly send maybe some extra firepower towards a situation like this, where you're just being bombarded by the most gargantuan enemy ships. But also you're playing against perhaps yourself, your own personal leaderboard, as well as the public leaderboards. So there's that time trial challenge here too. Will you choose to try and preserve all of your planets? Everything that you've got, build it all up, defend yourself from all of the different angles? Or will you say, hey, you know what, stuff it, let's ditch a whole load of stuff around the edges and just bring everything into the core, bring everything into a smaller, more defendable area? I've tried both. I tend to think the more you can hold, the better. Obviously, that'll give you a better chance at playing through for longer, more resources, ability to build more ships and more firepower. But honestly, There's more experimentation to be done here. However, we also have more scenarios to discuss here. So, with a defeat behind us, obviously kind of inevitable in this mode, let's move through and take a look at some more scenarios. Like Scorched Space, say that 5 times fast. For example, a 6-player scenario with some more mystery and intrigue, potentially very powerful weapons buried inside of this one as well. In the next scenario, Clash of the Titans, you don't even have a homeworld. Here you have a ship capable of summoning reinforcements, a Titan, go figure, and it's all about destroying the enemy. The question is, how will you approach it? How will you build up? You can have 3 Titans maximum, and you must colonize their homeworld and hold it for 5 minutes. Next, we have the Uprising, a fairly destructive scenario. As you can see, you'll have your work cut out for you in this one. The goal to win, colonize the TEC primary homeworlds and end their aggression. Alongside the Paths to Power DLC, we also have the Total Subjugation Free update. One of the key changes, culture now affects populations. Player with the dominant culture receives bonus resource and research generation, for example. So you can utilize the power of your culture, perhaps best highlighted here. So get out there, assimilate populations across the galaxy, and bring them to the Unity's cause in this scenario. Or throw all of that out the window and shoot for all as one. Here the objective, again, very unique. The playstyle even more so. Planets here, in this one, are slowly destroyed over time, as they note, denying you the resources that you need. Your objective? Simply to escape. You'll have to work together with perhaps some weaker allies in order to achieve this one. If I'm not playing Scenario 1, I'm probably playing this one, Seek and Destroy, kind of a 2-for-1 scenario, if you will, where you choose the perspective that you'd like to play from. Would you like to play as the Visari Exodus, or here as I am as the TEC? Now, which way you choose to play ultimately doesn't actually impact the objective. The objectives are these: 5 phase resonators spread across the game. Your objective is to ensure that the Visari don't get a hold of them. Like I'm doing here, quickly trying to build up some defenses, and quick tip, I would encourage you to do so even right from the beginning, because the AI will take advantage of you. The AI was the Visari, however now I'm going to play from their perspective. It's time to be the bad guy, this time rocking up to a brand new system. The objective here, of course, to gain control of those phase resonators, to capture them off the TEC. Now, the beauty of this one is that you can kind of, if you will, play as the good guy or the bad guy. I'll leave moral judgments ultimately up to you, but you could probably read between the lines here. One way, you're trying to desperately defend the 5 objectives, though probably maybe only, at least to begin with, one of them as you move through. Perhaps some more will be part of your sort of area of influence, if you will. As time progresses, though, it really can go a whole load of different ways. And then, of course, you flip it on your head. Here I'm playing as the Visari, right? Arriving in, attempting to capture a whole load of different systems, building up the resources from scratch effectively to try and get some strength and actually capture the objectives. It is a really fun game that in a lot of ways mirrors the initial scenario, actually, right? In that first one, I like it because I'm just trying to see how long I can survive. This time around, though, there are loads of other players, as you can see. It's a much larger game world that we're operating within, and therefore, it kind of feels nice to have some friends. It really does. Use those friends to try and defend. I would recommend just a couple of the phase resonators, though, again, that element of how far do I stretch out? Do I want to just claim as many systems as possible, get all of the resources and build a ginormous fleet? The answer to that is probably yes, though you could choose to flip it on its strategic little head and try and just shelter in place. Regardless of what you do, again to reiterate, make sure you defend your starting bad boy as well as the rest of the phase resonators, for if you don't defend this one, it all goes out the window very quickly indeed. While you can choose to change some difficulty or game settings, if you do so, you may not get your name on the leaderboards. I'll leave that one up to you, how you handle it in the face of defeat here, as we move toward the end of the video and my conclusions. As I mentioned at the start, I don't tend to play a lot of scenarios and strategy games, but this time around, given just how many there are as we take a look at the final one here, 10 players. It's a treasure hunt. I think that the different objectives between each one really help to shape this DLC and make it something quite significant. Honestly, just the first scenario alone feels like a completely different game mode. Just try and survive. Add in all of these extra ones, some of them very big indeed, and I think that this DLC pack adds an extraordinary amount of replayability, as well as possibly more potential here. Don't forget that all of this could be somewhat of a blank canvas for modding in the future as well. So, it's not just these scenarios, but potentially many, many more on offer that will absolutely throw you into the deep end. Thank you so much for joining me. If you'd like to check out Sins of a Solar Empire 2 and the Paths to Power DLC, you can do so again using my link down below. And thanks once more to Stardock for sponsoring this video. I'll see you next time.